All right, so welcome everyone. Welcome to the Forge Coffee Break. This is the episode number 17. It's going on for a few months now, and thank you for joining today. This Forge Coffee Break, it's an open space for general Forge questions, discussions, and just share what you're doing. Ask a few questions if you have any. Today we have a very special guest. Brian Nichol is here with us from Allied BIM. So he's going to show us something of what he's doing. But before going there, I would like to, as usual, open the space. And if you have any topics that you've been working with, any other any projects that you're working and you'd like to share, this is your chance. Just open your microphone, and you have the ability to just unmute, and let's see what you've been up to. I see a lot of people that is just repeating from previous weeks. I see, Eric from OCPW. I see, who else? Toge as well. Oh, Vijaya, you raise your hand. Just unmute and go for it.
Good evening or good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Vijaya from India, Kathibalami, working as an BIM manager here. I was just wondering if we can get some extension of this Forge trial version or trial license so that we are still in the experimented. Actually, I logged in last year, but I didn't get time to do anything. But this year, I was really interested in learning and doing some R&D in Forge. So I would appreciate if our license can be extended.
All right, cool. So to clarify, right? So when you create a new Forge account, you get a trial with 100 cloud credits. That's valid for 90 days, and that's a time for you to test, to develop your application. And if you need to, when you finish the trial, you can move to subscription, and your application will keep working after that. If you're having problems or need some extra time, just reach us. So it's forge.help@autodesk.com, and describe how you need help, and in that case. And so just send us the email that you were using. We can extend for a few days, but not for a very long time. So the best approach is actually to move to subscription. And with the subscription, you can also reach us with the Forge Help. We can move you to the subscription team to manage your account. Okay, but yeah, reach us on Forge Help, and let's take care of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
So who else is working with Forge these last few weeks? Nicholas, I'm just calling a few names. Michael, I think you're still connecting audio. Last week was very exciting. A lot of questions. Let's see how we have this week. Any other topics that you like to bring in? Alex, Zach. Oh, hi, Manny. Welcome back.
Hi.
Hope you're doing well.
All well. Hope you guys are doing well too. See a lot of great folks on the call. Wonderful.
Yeah. I see a topic here: design automation speed. What is that? I see that we have two Brians. Which Brian is that?
That was me.
Yeah.
I'll include that in our presentation, but I just put it on there since you asked.
Mm-hmm. But is that a question or a topic that you were working?
Just a topic in regards to fetching some information from a Revit model using design automation, and just the speed that it takes to retrieve that and store it in our database.
Okay, cool.
I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah. So I was wondering if there's a possibility.
So is that Eric, right?
Yes.
Hi Eric.
Hi. So we recently purchased BIM 360, and we wanted to know if there's if the API, if you're able to upload the checklist using the BIM 360 API, or is that just something that's being generated through?
Upload the checklist. Sorry.
Yes.
Let me see if I understand What do you mean? So,
Except there's certain checklists in the BIM 360.
mhm.
But let's say if someone submits a DWG file where I'm using design automation, and I find these checks. I'm doing some couple of checks. Can I upload that information to the BIM 360 application using the BIM 360 API?
Yeah, so looking at the BIM 360 documentation for
Mhm.
checklists, I see instance that is only a get, meaning it's just read.
Okay.
But if you so usually checklists are for when you have on the field, right? And you have to you go and inspect something, and you're saying, okay, this is okay, this is not okay. Is that what you're working with? Maybe you're talking
Yeah,
about
yeah, yeah,
issues. Aren't
yeah.
you
It's
talking about issues?
mostly checks. Certain things that a couple of our people that go to the field, of the surveyors, they go on the field and they look at specific sections of streets and they want to update that information.
Okay.
And sometimes that information it's put in the DWG file. I was wondering if I could read that. Well, pretty much I'm able to read that information, but I was wondering if I could update that information through MBIM 360 API.
Yeah, no, in this case, the issues, sorry, the checklist API is read only.
Okay.
So so Nicholas, you have a question here. Would you like to speak, or should I read from?
Yeah, no, I can relate. I'm with Mani. Just full disclosure, we're both from the same company. So we have a bidirectional BIM 360 docs integration.
Okay.
So we can take documents, any documents into Reconstruct, and we can push data from Reconstruct into BIM 360. Now that build is released, I have received various emails with a lot of information about obviously the release and that there's APIs, but I still don't quite understand, will the API change, or is the existing integration that we have basically surviving that change from quote unquote BIM 360 to build? Or what is really the plan from your side, and what are necessary actions from our side?
Yeah. So my suggestion is to rewatch the Dev Days from Mikako. She presented last week,
Okay.
March 4.
Okay.
So that was about the AWS Construction Cloud. She discussed all the new APIs on BIM 360 and Construction Cloud.
Awesome.
And there is no, she goes all the way into details on all of it. And
Yeah.
we are going to post the recordings very soon. So that was broadcast last Thursday.
All right.
But to summarize, the document management, the data management API is still valid. So you still can upload and download files using the same API.
Okay.
That part will not change. There are a few other changes. So I would suggest you to watch the presentation. Know everything. She will discuss everything there.
Okay.
But, specific to your question, BIM 360 docs, to upload and download files, that part is not changing.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'll make sure that I will watch the March 4 video. Thank you so much, Augusto.
Yeah, sure. And Zach, there was a question from you. Would you like to speak, or?
Yeah, I was just curious about if there was any more information on embedding the Forge viewer inside of Power BI. I've already followed one tutorial, but I'm not sure if anybody else has been working on that, or if there's any new information on using a Forge viewer with Power BI.
Yeah. So the tutorial you saw, it's from, we have a few tutorials on Power BI. I believe Jaime also did a presentation last AU, and I can find the link, give me a moment. And Power BI, it allows you to embed data and embed forms. And on that presentation, he's showing how to cache the data and then, or have a database where you can cache the data and then show it into Power BI. the viewer works the same way, right? You can embed as an iframe or as a div. But I believe that on Power BI, you need an iframe just because the way Power BI works, and because of the authentication, you cannot run your JavaScript on inside Power BI page. You have to run it on a side page, so you can load the viewer, etc. So the tutorials you have, or the tutorials we have on our blogs, is the information we have, and that's actually all we have, I would say.
Okay, thank you.
Just explaining the overall scenario, but yeah, thank you for a question. Good point. So let me move to the presentation. Let me stop sharing and give Brian.
There we go. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. So my name is Brian Nichol. I'm a co-owner, business partner at Allied BIM. You can visit us at alliedbim.com. We are currently working on a Forge integration that ties into our fabrication tools for Revit. So we have approximately 3 products that we're developing currently. We're developing the tools for Revit, the fabrication center, and the desktop machine application that we have. Both of these are Forge powered. And this one is just a Revit API app that's also connecting in and leveraging some of the data from Forge. Our goal with our software is that we're developing software for the prefab building industry. And in doing so, we've partnered with TigerStop, Pipeserver, as well as Autodesk Construction Cloud. Go to the next slide here. We just attended our 3rd Accelerator in March. Our goal was to have a fully automated cutting machine, optimized procurement of materials for cutting, and we accomplished a fully automated cutting machine with client approval due to our attendance at that Forge Accelerator. We're using currently the Viewer API, Data Management API, Design Automation, Model Derivative, and BIM 360. We love the 24/7 support that the Forge team gives us during the Forge Accelerators. They run it from the morning through the evenings, and that helps us out a lot. We dislike bugs and troubleshooting. That's our biggest dislike in general. Our use cases for our applications are for fabricators using a tape measure, wood and door manufacturers, plumbing, mechanical, AEC, and the pre-construction industry. We're going to have a small demonstration of our application at the end of this slide. I'm currently in Boise, Idaho, and then Mahmoud, if you want to introduce yourself as well.
Hey. So I'm working here with Brian on this project 1 year ago, actually. So we are working. I'm actually working a long time ago on Revit API work, and maybe at the start of this year, or maybe before, I just started working on also Forge and built the website that Brian will show us now.
Yep.
And also later, and also last thing I was working on actually was the 3rd part of the process, which is the fabrication desktop app. Yep. And also the integration between the fabrication center and the desktop app.
Thank you, Maddie, for your introduction. This all started in Bozeman, Montana. I worked for a small mom and pop plumbing and heating company in Bozeman, Montana. This is our shop up front and our fabrication shop in the back. And then there's also a couple remote shops as well. We have a pod shop over here, and then off to the west here, to the north here, we have a sheet metal and HVAC shop as well. This is a picture of what the typical controller looks like. It's pretty antiquated, and so we brought it up to speed using the Autodesk APIs. They have an open source program as well, which allows us to program on top of their controllers. These are HVAC and sheet metal shops in Bozeman, Montana. And then we've recently been acquired by Williams Plumbing and Heating. And so they are basically adopting this process at their shop as well. They are one of our clients. Semi-automated TigerStop. So this is the semi-auto setup. This is what it looks like in the back. We have a monitor that connects directly to the serial controller. And this gives us the ability to basically control the saw operations and movement using the API and the application. Traditionally, we were sending back 11 by 17s printed out on a sheet of paper, and now we are digitizing that and putting it up on the shop screen at this point. Our procurement is requesting from the supplier a box of fittings, and then the pipe. And we're taking the drawings and the pipe that are modeled in Revit and basically procuring them through the the semi-auto and the fully automated cutting solutions. This label is important to us because this is all Revit information that's been translated through to the serial controller. So it has the total length, the assembly name, the size, the length, and our part number. We've since updated that, and you'll see that in another image. This is our fully automated setup that we set up in week 3 of the Forge Accelerator. And what this allows us to do is basically cut pipe without having to manually click start and manually chop down on the saw. Down here on this image to the right, we have an example of our Forge application running on the shop floor tied to the semi-controller or semi-auto saw. And the controller basically receives the input and sends the list to the serial controller and receives a signal that the saw is in cycle, and then it proceeds to the next item in the list. Up top here, we have basically a tablet, so the operator can run on the 50-inch or they can run down on the Surface Pro. And then as they're proceeding through, we print out labels with QR codes and information that ties it back to the model as well. So this is kind of a zoomed in version of that. You can see the labels being printed. This has been progressing through. And then this list basically drives that serial controller. This is kind of a more zoomed in version of what the hub looks like when we're operating these machines. And we're able to view the 3D model as well as the sheet. This is where you can get in contact with us, but I'm gonna pop over to a live demo real quick of us operating the saw. So our Forge application runs through our fabrication desktop application. And what that allows us to do is sign in with our BIM 360 credentials. So right now I'm just going to sign in as myself. This uses the 3-legged authentication system. And this has been published, the Fabrication Center has been published on the BIM 360 App Store. So in here, what we can do is we get a list of hubs, and then we can go in to a designated folder. So I'm just going to go into our project files, and I'm going to load our test project that we've been using. I'm going to pull in version 3. Let's pull in version 3. Sorry, that's because I've been clicking through a bunch of different views. But basically what this does is it opens up the Revit model that we've published to BIM 360, and then it begins to load and parse in all the information. I'm currently live at their shop, so I'm actually running on their Surface Pro remotely from Boise through this controller. So everything I'm doing here is what's happening on this controller here. What I'm able to do is I'm able to parse all of the assembly information from the model, and we're now tracking progress as we're cutting it as well. So these are the list of assemblies that I have. So in this case, if I type in storm drain, we can see that my storm drains are here. I have a list of orders. We go through creating packages and then procuring orders. And what I'm going to do is load the saw with order number 1. And we can see that we've already progressed to cut part of this order. Let me check that my settings are in. My settings are in. So I can just hit this download to TigerStop button using the Forge viewer. And that will allow me to filter this. We were running the design automation API to procure this, and we were getting about a 30-second to a minute lag on our first process of design automation. And then any other subsequent orders would go instantly after that because it queried the model. So what we would like to do is see if there's ways that we can improve that speed potentially, or if there's alternative methods that we could do where maybe we run design automation at the beginning or something like that. But for right now, what we're doing is we're filtering the parameters in the list, and I can hit OK. And this will actually load the saw with all of the procured materials. And you can see that a series of these have already been cut. So it's actually telling me what the operator has already cut because it's stored on the database. And then from here, what we can do is we can filter down by size. So I could say I want to cut all of the 6-inch, and I can see that there's still a series of 6-inch that are left. So I can load stock of 240 and hit enter. And the machine will progress back to the 240 position. It advances it 1/2 inch for a head cut so the operator can perform a head cut. and then we hit start. And what will happen is it will print a label and it will proceed to the next cut. And we can continue resuming through. Right now, basically, once we've done that, we can also filter by the assembly. So I can filter by assembly 2, and I can highlight these and view them in 3D, and it will isolate those parts in the model so that I can see which parts are being cut from the cut list as well. I can go back to the TigerStop application, and I can view the sheet to that particular assembly as well. So I can pull this up, the operator can pull that up on the screen, and they can view the cut list of what's being machined or what they're building basically on the shop floor. We can also isolate down by an individual part. So I can come in here and basically just isolate one single part. And the reason we didn't see that is I'm in full screen, but it isolated down to that specific part in the viewer as well. So this is traditionally our web application, and our web application exists basically for the design team to track the progress of what's being cut. And then the desktop application exists so that the fabricator can store that information and sync it to the design's fabrication center, where they can view the progress through the application. Some of our goals, we're going to attend a 4th accelerator, hopefully here in April. We're working on reporting, and what reporting allows us to do is basically, once the model's been built and it has all the information in it, we can send that to a supplier and receive costs. And we can send that to the supplier so that they can procure those boxes of fittings and ship them to the shop prior to a job being cut, so the material is ready and at hand when they show up. The traditional workflow for this is pen and paper and pencil. They typically just write everything down, and then you've got a ton of missing fittings and things like that. That's it for my presentation today. Thank you, Augusto and Natalia, for having me. And Maudie, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. Thank you, Maudie. Very nice presentation.
Thank you.
I'm really impressed by how you can. It's always amazing that you can see some magic happen. Right, you click here, something happen on the other side. It's always very nice. So let me open for questions. I saw others. Money, go ahead.
Brian, very impressive on many different fronts. So I actually have a lot of questions, but I'll keep the main ones here so we can leave time for others to ask questions too. First, are you, getting your work packages organized around any sort of uniformat classification? I noticed that when you were selecting, there was some classification associated to that. Are you getting that automatically through Design API, or is that something that somebody's manually entered into that Revit model that you're loading in the first place?
That's a great question, Manny. As of right now, we're using the CamDuct database. So we have a CamDuct database that manages basically our pipe as well as our sheet metal fittings. And so we've input most of that data into that specific database. But we allow for the user, in the event that they don't have any of that information, to come in and fill out values that they may want to change. So it's a little bit of both. There's some pre-entered data. We don't use any uniformat classification at all as of right now. We're primarily using categories out of Revit. So we're specifically categorizing in this demonstration pipe and pipe fittings. However, this application does work for structural framing members as well. So for wood manufacturers, they can load those in, as well as door manufacturers as well. In addition to that, and I'm sorry to elaborate on a little bit further, but you brought up a good point here, is TigerStop's typical applications that they provide have several limitations. One of them in which is being able to print multiple labels simultaneously. So using their open source code, we've been able to come in here and select a batch series of parts and print that code information out on these labels. And that opens us up to being able to work with more door and window manufacturers, as well as in the European markets, because they're trying to translate all of that information to labels. And there's been major deficiencies in the label regard for that. So, yeah.
Wonderful. And when you were showing your viewer, I think you loaded the data from BIM 360. I wasn't entirely sure if this viewer is BIM 360 viewer or Forge viewer tied into your BIM 360 data. I see the 2D annotations on the right side of your screen, so it kind of tells me how you're using a BIM 360 interface. I don't think that code is exposed through Forge, but I might be wrong. If you can clarify that, and I think you mentioned that this also runs on desktop. I think I heard that. If that's the case, do you have to authenticate prior to getting that piece started on the desktop, or do you actually, store the data locally and you run them completely independent from connection?
That's a great question. Currently, so first question for the hub, this is actually a Forge viewer. So this is not the BIM 360 native viewer. We're creating kind of our own viewer. So this is our own viewer extension as well, as the right. The markups are a work in progress right now. The goal with the markups, as you mentioned, through the API, these are not exposed, so we can't call on the traditional markups, which I've requested from Makako to open that up for us, but I don't know how long or when that will happen. So what we had to do was develop kind of our own tools for this, and it's challenging because when you put the markups in a specific state, you have to store that location and store that view, and so there's a lot of back-end creation on the markups of what we have to do. We do have it semi-working, but we're still having, as you can see, I mean, that's not a really good markup, but we're working through that and trying to build through that. As far as it running as a local desktop application, what we're doing is we are authenticating with the Fabrication Center through the web, and we can give the user access in specific shops to just rely on the TigerStop and bypass the center in some cases. Because what we did is we allowed the user to create their own lists in here as well, because they're not always going to be fed primarily from BIM 360 or the viewer. In our ideal perfect world, they would be, but in many cases, they just want to cut some pipe. So what we did is we added, I don't think I deleted everything out correctly, but we added the ability to add lines here. And so what the user can do is come in and basically type in values of whatever lengths that they want. And then it'll optimize it and work and function in the same facet that it traditionally runs from the viewer, just as line items. You can see that the 3D and the sheet view aren't connected because they're not connected to the viewer elements. So that's something that we're working through a little bit more. But as of right now, it's a C# desktop application .NET Core project, and Maudy can probably speak a little more in addition to that in terms of the technical side. But
thank you.
Yep. Great questions, Manny.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
One important thing to add that I left out that I'd like to kind of explain is Maudy is in Egypt and then I'm in Boise, Idaho. And due to COVID, we've been working remotely. So I traveled to Bozeman 2 weeks ago to install the fully auto saw. But one thing we have to give major kudos to the Autodesk team is they're also all remote. And so attending these Forge accelerators has been tremendously helpful to our team, because they can hop on and view the actual issues that we're having remotely as well. So thank you again. I can't thank the Autodesk team enough, but thank you for everything. So.
Our pleasure. Thank you, Brian. So can you stop sharing so I can move back?
Absolutely. I'm sorry.
Thank you. All right, so we just have a few more minutes. Any other questions, any other topics? There is a question, when is the next accelerator? So let me show you that. We got a very good advertisement for that. And if you go to community, forge.autodesk.com, then community, accelerator. The next one is April, right here. Oh, no, sorry, March. Time's flying.
Yeah.
March the next one, Forbidden City, and on that accelerator we are actually going to present more about the data visualization extension. So it's a chance for you to, if you plan to work on that as well. And there is one more in April, then May, and we have one in June. And hopefully that after June we have, let's see how things go. We may have some on-site events, but until June, that still be virtual only. And with that, let me thank you again, Brian, for coming here today. Our next coffee break will be in 2 weeks. And on March 24th, same day of the week, Wednesday, same time, 8 a.m. Pacific. And I hope to see you there. And if you have, and thank you. Let's see if there is one more question. Oh no, thank you. Oh, okay, thank you all for coming today. Amazing presentation, Brian. Amazing work, Mahmoud as well.
Thank you so much.
I hope to see you on the next one. The next coffee break will coincide with the next accelerator. So we're going to have a lot of attendees from the event. So come to that coffee break. Hopefully the attendees will be able to share what they are working during the week. So yeah.
I have one last question for
Yes.
Brian. Are you doing this only for the MEP fabrication or even for the building?
We are partnered with a couple structural framing companies. And so we're doing this for the prefab building industry. So some of them don't use any automated processes. So we're working with a couple. Boise's a huge market for that, and we're working outside of Boise as well. But the answer is yes. We're going into other sectors that aren't primarily just MEP. We're looking at incorporating structural framing, electrical, other pieces as well. Architectural paneling as well would be one. Our goal with using Forge is that right now we have it built out to TigerStop, is that we can add additional machines to the tabs at the top of that desktop so that we can funnel the information to those respective machines. That's our ultimate goal. Great question.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Vijaya. And thank you, everyone. Thank you, Natalia, for organizing with Brian. And I see also Adam. Who else from our team? Oh, Yulia is here as well. All right. So thank you, everyone. See you in 2 weeks. Enjoy your day.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Augusto.
All right. Bye, guys.
Thank you and bye-bye. Have a nice day. Bye.
Bye.